All right. Keith Thurman explains why Errol Spence is more popular than he is. And it comes down to something real funny. We'll talk about that in this video. Keith Thurman, man. Sometimes I think he's delusional. Other times I think, man, this is one of the smartest and most observant fighters in the game. As far as things outside of the ring, I really do truly believe that Keith Thurman is a very, very bright guy. But he was asked a question. So in this particular incident, it was both delusional and honest at the same time. Now, before I get into that though, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the like button. Be much appreciated. Also, patrons, thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you so much for your support. I think we've got some really valuable stuff on the Patreon channel that I think that you could really use in your life, practically speaking. I haven't been able to upload as much as I've liked because of just getting this new setup together. I've been doing Patreons a couple times a week, Patreon videos a couple times a week. I'm gonna increase the quality just like I did on this. Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much for your support. Now, why do I think that he is realistic? Well, first, let me tell you what he said. Keith Thurman says that the reason that Errol Spence Jr. is more popular than he is, and that's not the exact phrasing of the question, right? Like, why are people more interested in Errol Spence than you? Very brave question from the interviewer. He said, look, when people see Errol Spence Jr., they don't see any vulnerability. They see the way that he fights, you see his jab, they see how technically sound he is, they see how he keeps his guard high. They just don't see a lot of weaknesses in him. They don't see vulnerability in Errol Spence. But with me, they see much more vulnerability. They see my hands low. They see that there are things that they believe that people can take advantage of. And he then talked about the fight that he'd had with a previous fighter. I don't remember the name, but I think it's Diaz, who gave a good fight to Sean Porter, fought Sean Porter 2 times. And also I think he might have beaten Amir Khan or knocked down. No, he didn't beat Amir Khan, but he knocked down Amir Khan. That guy. You guys can box right that. He said, like, man, these guys didn't realize how unorthodox and how awkward I was until they get in the ring. So that's the reason why people be more behind Errol Spence Jr. than they would be behind me, because they realize that it looks from the outside in that there's a better chance for me to lose than Errol Spence. So I think that is an honest observation. And I think that's true. I think that is true. What he said, clearly, Errol Spence Jr. looks like he's a lot less susceptible to be getting knocked out than Keith Thurman is. He also looks like he's a lot less susceptible to body shots than Keith Thurman is. Absolutely. He looks like he's a better fighter than Keith Thurman. And I like that Keith Thurman admitted that or could see that. He looks like he's a better fighter. I agree with Keith Thurman that also you can get into the ring and you can see something a little bit different in the ring than it looks on the outside looking in. That is clearly true as well. But here's the problem. Here's where I disagree with Keith Thurman. The reason people are not supporting you as much as they support Errol Spence is not very much to do with what you just said. That might be why people believe that Errol Spence will beat you or will beat will beat other people. That might be why they think that he's a better fighter. That's not why they support him more than they support you. The reason that they support them and more than they support you is because Errol Spence, number one, didn't duck you. And you ducked Errol Spence. When people see you ducking and ducking and ducking and doing things, saying things that make you think that you don't want no part of that other fighter, a young and up and coming fighter, you're sitting on the sideline while he's knocking people out, they're going to gravitate towards him. That happened, whether or not AJ fans want to admit it or not, that happened to Anthony Joshua in the UK. I have a channel where I regularly talk to people in the UK who are fans of boxing. And although clearly the vast majority of the people that talk about boxing in the UK were either active supporters of Anthony Joshua or they sat on the sidelines silently, right, and just wanted to see whatever happened, that's the majority of them. There was a loud minority that were shifting away from Anthony Joshua to Deontay Wilder because of the fact that it looked to them, and I think to most reasonable people that paid close attention to it, it appeared to them that Anthony Joshua wasn't trying to fight Deontay Wilder. And they held it against Anthony Joshua. And they eventually turned on Anthony Joshua. That, along with doing things like ignoring the people that were with you originally for the people that joined you after you became famous. That's another little side note about Anthony Joshua's rise to power over there in the UK, or rise to prominence in the UK. What I'm told is that there were a lot of channels or a lot of people, black fighters, black people that covered fights that supported Anthony Joshua, that Anthony Joshua would speak to in the early part of his career after he made it to the pinnacle of boxing in the UK. They can no longer get conversations with him. He went completely corporate. That's something else that Keith Thurman did. Now, also, take the comparison between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder a little bit further. Anthony Joshua, just to address the point of it's one guy looking vulnerable and another guy looking less vulnerable that would drive people away. Anthony Joshua looks less vulnerable, doesn't he? He keeps his he used to until he fought Andy Ruiz and tried to turn into Pernell Whitaker or something. I have no idea why he was doing that. But that's what the same thing they would say. Deontay Wilder looked more vulnerable. He looked like he could be beaten easier because he's having fights that look a lot closer than some of Anthony Joshua's blowouts. Now, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Deontay Wilder has fought 40 times. So if you fight 40 times, you're going to run into some problems over 40 fights. That's just how it goes. I don't think there's anybody that has ever fought 40 professional fights that ain't never had a problem in 40 professional fights. And do not mention Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the comment section, because he had Jose Luis Castillo and he had Emmanuel Augustus before he got to 40 fights. I digress. But it's the difference. So it's the ducking that's the problem. It's the ducking that's the problem. It's the impression that you give people that you don't want to fight. And I can tell you this for sure. I was definitely a Keith Thurman fan well before I was an Errol Spence Jr. fan. Well before I was an Errol Spence Jr. fan. I was a Keith Thurman fan before the Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight was made. There was a lot of people that were behind Keith Thurman and wanting to push Keith Thurman and thinking that Keith Thurman deserved a shot against Floyd Mayweather Jr. Many people were adamant about that. And how Keith Thurman is one of the names that people would mention when Floyd Mayweather's detractors within the black community would say, hey, he's not fighting these young athletic guys. He's not fighting these young athletic black guys. Sorry about that. That's my mother-in-law. Keith Thurman, Paul Williams. Same thing that is being said now about a guy named Canelo Alvarez, with him fighting Demetrius Andrade, and him not fighting Demetrius Andrade, and him not fighting Jamal Charlo. So I say all that. Keith Thurman is a very good fighter. I personally give him a slight advantage over Manny Pacquiao in the fight that's coming up on I think that's July 20th. I am definitely going to be, I'm definitely going to be buying the pay-per-view fight for Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman. And hey man, I think it's going to be a terrific fight. But after that, we'll see. If Keith Thurman is able to get past Manny Pacquiao, what's Keith Thurman going to do next? Is he going to find, and because that fight, the winner, a 3-belt unification fight, should be on the table at that point if Keith Thurman is able to win. Because 2 of the belts, the IBF and the WBC, are going to be on the line when Errol Spence Jr. fights Sean Porter. I favor Errol Spence Jr. in that fight. So if the 2 of those can meet, if Keith Thurman is able to get past his, Errol Spence is able to get hit by his, then Keith Thurman will have an opportunity to take that popularity back by proving that he's the better man in the ring. And of course, there's always the possibility of a Terrence Crawford fight as well. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the issue. Once again, man, shout out to my Patreons. I appreciate your patience. We're going to be put out content, and I think it's going to be very valuable for your life and things that if you learn, you listen to, you'll be able to apply in a way that'll help you be more successful. And in whatever you do, and by whatever definition you have, you use whatever success means to you. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm out. Peace.